Great to have your company on the 7 Network, and welcome to our continued coverage of the 1997 Amscar Series. Today, Eastern Creek International Raceway in Sydney is the host venue for round 3. Joining me trackside is Sydney driver Peter Dulman, former 2-litre Australian Super Touring Car champion. You've had a mixed bag of success in the series so far. You'll be looking for improvement this weekend.
Yeah, we always thought we'd be one of the front runners in this series, but through a couple of mechanical failures, we haven't done that well. But when we have been running, we've been up the front, so we're looking forward to continuing that today.
Of course, last round at Amaroo Park, vastly different racetracks.
Yeah, we found the setup for our car was a lot easier at Amaroo Park than it is here. We've come off a Yokohama tyre onto the Goodyear, and that's a big step for us, I think more so than the Dunlop guys, and we struggle a bit with that, but we're getting there.
You've got that many sponsors, you're actually in a position of rotating them. This weekend you're running under the Home Hardware banner.
Yeah, that's true. We have an interesting sponsorship package put together where each of our secondary sponsors become the major sponsor for one event, and that's quite true. This weekend it's Home Hardware.
Good luck to you this weekend. Sydney's Peter Dulman. On today's program, you'll see highlights of races 1 and 2 in this all-important third round at Sydney's Eastern Creek Raceway. Let's now check out the starting grid for the first event. And qualifying for this event, very competitive. Mal Rose on pole, Bob Pearson beside him, then Peter Dulman, Neil Shembry, Jeff Kendrick, a West Australian driver, starts out of position number 5. Out of 6, Richard Mork in the Commodore VP, Gary Wilmington in the Falcon, Don Pulver, Gary Cannon, and Scotty Taylor in the Commodore VP rounds out the 10-car field. Perfect weather conditions at Sydney's Eastern Creek Raceway. The first event, a 10-lap journey. I'm joined by Colin Bond, former national touring car champion. And good to see you, Bondy. Bob Pearson not taking his place on the front row of the grid here.
No, actually, Bob was late getting out. He'll have to start from the pit row, which means after the cars start, he'll then come out onto the grid.
Set for a start now. Mal Rose on the front row of the grid certainly got the best start. Peter Dulman also quickly away. In fact, a number of drivers getting away very, very quickly indeed as they charge through the first left-hand corner. And that's a very exciting part of this racetrack at Eastern Creek, and they now head down towards turn 2, hard on the brakes through the left-hander.
And now from Peter Dulman's car, he's chasing here Mal. Mal has got a very good start. He's a bit early, isn't he, there? The tyres take a little bit of time to come in with these cars, but it looks like Mal's doing a great job. He's on the pole. He started the last race at Amaroo from the front and won those ones. He looks like he's going to have their measure today.
Yes, Mal, the dominant driver at round 2 at Amaroo Park, winning 3 from 3. Let's check them out for you. Mal Rose, the race leader, the Sydney driver, former Australian production car champion. The man in second spot is Peter Dulman, whom I spoke to at the top of today's program. Neil Shembry runs third, and then further back in fourth, the West Australian driver, Jeff Kendrick, doing a fairly good job on the 3.93 kilometre Eastern Creek circuit.
And there I noticed Gary Wilmington was just bringing up right behind them. Here's Mal coming out of this very hard right-hand corner. It's something you've got to get into, brake hard, get the power down and exit out of there nice and straight. And obviously Mal is out in front again doing a great job. As we now get Bob Pearson. Now Bob, as we said, started from the pit lane. He's already passed one. Looks like he's going to get another one before the end of lap 1.
Pearson was particularly quick at the opening round of the Amscar Series for 97 at this circuit. Another driver that's been very quick in the series so far is Sydney's Michael Donoher, who unfortunately couldn't take part in the action this weekend. Joe Gardner is now with him in the pits.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. I mean, it's very difficult to stand there and watch everyone out there having a lot of fun, and obviously they need the cars too. They're a little bit short on cars, but our crew made a decision late, or just last week, that the car wasn't going to be rushed. We've got a lot of racing to do towards the end of the year, and with the Amscar final coming up at Bathurst, so they decided that it was in everyone's interest to just make sure the car's 100% right before it goes back out. It's been a long week and everyone's tried really hard, but we didn't quite make it, unfortunately. But we'll be back.
Yes, Michael Donoher, unfortunately not being a part of the action today because he had a very, very big accident at Mount Panorama Bathurst as a part of the press practice day, the Amscar support event, the upcoming 1997 AMP Bathurst 1000. And Colin Bond, certainly he'll be missed this weekend. He's a driver that's been mixing it with the best of them.
Well, he has. He's been one of the former drivers in the whole series, actually, a bit like McCarthy. McCarthy also was disappointed he couldn't make it today. They were trying to get their car from Perth. Long way, of course, and they just physically didn't have time to get it here.
In the meantime, Mal Rose continues to lead this event. Race 1, round 3 of the 1997 Amscar Series. In second spot, Peter Dulman. Third is Neil Shembry, and further back behind him is the West Australian driver, Jeff Kendrick. Sydney's Mal Rose, though, continues to lead this event. He's the man they've got to catch as we take a break from Eastern Creek. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back to Eastern Creek International Raceway in Sydney for highlights of Race 1 in round 3 of the Amscar Series for 97. where Sydney's Mal Rose continues to set the pace. On screen momentarily there was Bob Pearson in the Pro Dot Commodore, and Colin Bond, he's made up considerable ground.
Well, he must be up to 4th place, actually, which is great for him, because he did start, as we said before, from the pit lane, which meant that he had a lot of work to do. And he's closing in, actually, on Chembry, who's not that far ahead of him at present.
Mal Rose in the Victor Footwear Commodore, now on screen, exits turn 9. Corporate Hill here at Eastern Creek, it's known as, and he now approaches the double apex, turns 11 and 12 before heading back down the 1 kilometre long main straight at Eastern Creek. There is Peter Dorman, the former Australian 2-litre touring car champion, still in second spot. A couple of Tasmanians involved in the action here this weekend. One of them is Gary Cannon, who is running the oldest car in the field. Joe Gardner caught up with him before the start of this race.
It's the oldest touring car running still less than Australia. We have a lot of trouble with downforce because we don't have the adjustable wings and things that the late model cars have. So we've got a fixed body kit, we can't alter it, and with these control tyres, which are a little bit on the hard side, we tend to get a bit of oversteer, understeer. So we keep adjusting the car. We're getting it quicker each time. But the other downside is that we're still running the Holden engine, which is a little bit down horsepower, but we're there doing it and we're having fun.
And good luck to him for that, having a good time. Peter Dorman is also having a good time, trying desperately to get on equal terms with that man, Mal Rose, in the Victor Footwear Fairfax Community Classifieds Commodore. And they're approaching about half-race distance in this event, and Mal Rose looking very comfortable, Colin Bond.
Well, he is. I think Mal's just got that gap that he needs now to get away from Dorman. It means that Mal can just settle down, drive the car nice and straight and square, and knows that he can just keep that gap between himself and Dorman. The race is his.
Dorman trying extremely hard. If you haven't seen the Amscar action before, all cars running on the same spec Goodyear control tyre. And Bob Pearson really storming back from the pack after starting this event in pit lane. Didn't make his way onto the racetrack on time, was late getting out, he was penalised accordingly. And he knows this circuit perhaps better than any other that he drives on, Pearson. It's really his home track, so you'd expect him to make up a fair bit of time. There's Kendrick, the West Australian driver in the PMFM entry. And the Kendrick family in Perth have enjoyed a lot of success in all forms of motorsport, including sprint car speedway racing. Leader is Mal Rose, and the Amscar series is certainly a very cost-effective way of going touring car racing, as Don Pulver explained.
Oh, it's great. No, it's good fun. I mean, I'd never drive a Group A in my life before this, and it gives me a chance to drive a Group A before I get too old.
And we're now on the last lap of this first event in round 3 of the Amscar series. That was Neil Chembry. Now, Colin, Peter Dorman has made up a fair bit of ground on the race leader, Mal Rose.
Well, he has, actually, but so has Kendricks here, just getting past Bob Pearson. Now, Bob was in front of him, and obviously he must have just had a bit of a mistake coming onto the straight and allowed him to pass.
It's all about seizing your opportunities in motorsport. Jeff Kendrick has done exactly that. There's Neil Chembry, still runs third on the circuit in the gearbox number 36 entry. There's Rose, race leader, who's driving superbly, very comfortable in the car, not thrashing the machine. And Peter Dorman, you've got to say, is driving in a similar way.
Well, actually, Neil Chembry's been doing a great job too in the gearbox car. He's just been driving along, not making any mistakes, and his third place is going to be well deserved, actually.
Race leader Mal Rose, not far to go now in this one. He'll approach the left-hander at the top of the hill and then head down towards turn number 9. Chembry keeping it nice and tidy. Beautifully turned out race car. Got to pay tribute to all of the drivers involved in the Amscar series. They are a credit to their sponsors and teams, as Mal Rose is now only 2 corners from home in race 1 of round 3 of the Amscar series. The second time this series has hit Sydney's Eastern Creek International Raceway in '97. The grand final of this event the day before, the AMP Bathurst 1000 at Mount Panorama in October, where double points are up for grabs, so it's far from being over. Mal Rose approaches the checkered flag, goes back through the gears, cruises across the line and takes it comfortably. Dorman finishing in second place, and third was Neil Chembry, and Joe Gardner is in the pits to speak to the leading 2 drivers.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. Hard work. Mal's a little bit quicker than us, so yeah, worked pretty hard to stay there, or to stay in contact with him anyway.
Peter, it's been a very difficult series for you. It's been up and down, a great lot of disappointments. Do you think you've now got the car at the point that you'll be competitive for the rest of the afternoon?
Yeah, I think so. You know, we always thought we were going to do well in this series, and we've had a few mechanical breakdowns that have set us back as far as sorting out the tyres and the grip go. And that's pretty obvious with Mal. You know, he's just that little bit further ahead of us in terms of getting grip. But yeah, race by race, we're getting closer.
You were able to hold Peter Dorman off fairly well. Yeah, I think you were about a second and a half, 2 seconds faster by the end of the race.
Yeah, I drove really hard in the first half of the race, and then when I realised Peter wasn't responding, then I eased it back a fraction, because the tyres were getting a little bit hot. But mind you, these durable Goodyears keep going and going and going. They're fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Melrose, the winner of race 1 in round number 3, will now take a break and come back with race 2 shortly.